We have some breaking news for you. We've just confirmed that ICE has quietly opened a new detention facility here in California. It's in McFarland in the Central Valley. It's a 700-bed facility that was the site of a former state prison. It's now run by the for-profit prison company GEO Group. Now, the number of people in ICE detention in California has shot up 72% in just the past year, and advocates say they did not have the opportunity to have a public hearing before this facility opened. We have all this information.
All praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders, a great millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and wherever you may be, and wherever you may be, to you I say, Shalom, Shalom. Right, this is going to be pretty much various articles. It's probably just titled that because, that's basically what it is. Some various articles here, different articles. And I'm going to start here, this is a scripture that we get all the time, but it kind of flows into what's happening because the scriptures tell us that there's nothing new under the sun. So what's happening right now with the persecution. Okay, the Israelites, it mostly started with the Northern Kingdom. Okay, but, they speaking about ICE, kind of swooped through, Chicago, and was it Jersey they went to, or it was somewhere else, I believe. But, small portion there with the Southern Kingdom, but definitely persecution of the Northern Kingdom by way of ICE. And really, real quick, ICE is basically a simple tool. And so they think that they're in a certain position, but really they're just a tool for the elites to stir up madness, stir up chaos, okay? Because I wouldn't doubt for a moment that they will also take ICE and utilize them to stir up the people, for trouble, all right? In this, because they want this chaos, they want this civil unrest. But that's a whole other topic there. But Lamentations 4:17 says, "As for us, our eyes as yet fail for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us." Okay, the NLT says, "We looked in vain for our allies to come and save us, but we were looking to nations that could not help us." And that's what Israel would do. They would want to worship any and everything else except for Yahweh Shai. Even when, because we spoke about the Northern Kingdom in the time of, what was it, 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, when it talks about Shalmaneser the fifth. They look to the king of Egypt, all right, for help. Okay, so the prophets are out here, all right, on the internet, on the streets, and telling our people who we are, all right, who our power is, and so on and so forth. Okay, and Israel still refuses to acknowledge, all right, that we are the Israelites, and that returning back to our power, all right, is the only hope and way out of the situation we found ourselves in because of what breaking of the covenant. All right, and the main nation that our people are looking to help for it right now is Esau, which actually, even because you can go to what the curses, all right, it says you will go to your enemy for want of all things. Matter of fact, let's pull it up real quick. Enemy for want of all things. Yep, Deuteronomy 28:57. "And toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet." Actually, no, that's not the one. That's a good one though about cannibalism. Let me see. I might have to go over here. Let me see here. There's another one that says it. They didn't give it to us though. I have to go up a little bit. Just bear with me. Give me a couple ticks. I might just try to type it in again. Oh wait, okay, I think this is it. Yep. So Deuteronomy 28:48. "Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies." See, enemies, not friends, not allies, but serve your enemies which the Lord Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. See? And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee. And the NLT reads, you will serve your enemies whom the Lord Yahweh will send against you. You will be left hungry, thirsty, naked, and lacking in everything. The Lord Yahweh will put an iron yoke on your neck, oppressing you harshly until he has destroyed you. Bam. There you go. So going back to Lamentations 4, I think we read 17 in the NLT. We looked in vain for our allies to come and save us, but we were looking to nations that could not help us. See, looking to nations that could not help us, and as I was saying, that nation that our people are still looking to help for is their main enemy. All right, scriptures speak about the horn of our adversaries. That's Esau, Edom. All right, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, which really starts with the so-called elite banking families. It says we couldn't go into the streets without danger to our lives. Our end was near. Our days were numbered. We were doomed, and that's what's happening. Or what has, or is currently happening, I should say. Because when it all kicked off, you know, you had Northern Kingdom Israelites that were just leaving their jobs, okay, afraid that ICE will pop up, leaving the farms, all right, afraid that ICE will pop up. That left the farmers short, okay. That halted production of certain things, all right, because a farmer can't do it all on his own. It's impossible, all right. You might have a garden in your yard. That's different. When you talk about acres of land, you can't do it by yourself, all right. You can't even do it with two people, really. Just impossible. You need a crew, you need a team, okay. Storefronts started losing business. Why? Because they were saying that I remember seeing this news clip about streets being empty, all right. Not like completely empty, but no longer being busy. Why? Because most of that traffic that was flowing through there was, Israelites. So all those businesses were making money from off the Israelite purses. See? And so businesses were losing money because it was the Israelites that were bringing most of the business. All right. This and that really. Side note: it ties in with Revelation 18 chapter. All right. Being this pretty much this cash cow, because a lot of this money is generated here is off the backs of the Israelites. All right, it's a place of business America. Okay, but anyways, going back, Lamentations 4:18 says they hunt our steps that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near, our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heaven. They pursued us upon the mountains. They lay wait for us in the wilderness. All right, NLT says our enemies were swifter than the eagles in flight. If we fled to the mountains, they found us. If we hid in the wilderness, they were waiting for us there. And that's actually what the Northern Kingdom is doing now. All right, you have ICE that'll show up. We all talked about the jobs. ICE is showing up at their kindergarten schools and middle schools, high schools, schools period in general. ICE showing up to schools. ICE is taking the children. ICE is utilizing the children as bait to catch the parents. They're showing up at your court dates. Oh, can't forget about the most recent one. The TSA agents, all right, assisting ICE agents that have been set up at the airports, and now they got able to snatch you right off of your flight. You just came back from a vacation probably, and you step off the flight into some ICE handcuffs. Okay, so that's what's happening. Persecution, and our people are not seeing it. So there you go. So we read that there. I want to get that first, so I can go down here. I'm gonna give this the floor. All right. So this is from CalMatters.com. It says ICE quietly opens another detention center in a former California prison, dated April 23rd, 2026. ICE quietly opens another detention center in a former California prison. All right. So, yep, it says Central Valley Annex in McFarland on July 8, 2024. All right. So, in summary, it says California now has 8 ICE detention centers. Two open since President Trump took office in 2025, with both operating in former state prisons. See, and this is what's going to happen in the time of Jacob's trouble. A lot more people, Israelites and heathens alike, are going to be gathered up, rounded up, and taken into, detention centers, which some of these detention centers are what? Former prisons. So there's no need for any like renovations and stuff like that. Like when he spoke about getting the warehouses and renovating them to make them into detention centers. You don't need that for former prisons. That's what they were already built for. All you need to do is just make whatever small minor changes and then bring people in. Simple as that. It says Immigration and Customs Enforcement again has expanded in California's Central Valley, activating a new 700-bed detention facility operated by the for-profit prison company GEO Group. Advocates say the agency began transferring immigrant detainees to the McFarland facility last week. The facility, called Central Valley Annex, brings the total number of active detention centers in California to 8, up from 6 at the beginning of 2025. They are all operated by private companies, and they have a total capacity of nearly 10,000 beds, and that seems to be the magic number for these centers here, right? 10,000, but they're looking to expand, all right? Because there's millions of people here, okay? And you got to think about now is one thing, but in the time of Jacob's trouble, in the time of rounding up, okay, people in general, not just Israelites, but people in general, whoever are against the system, whoever they deem as a terrorist or whatever the case may be, however they may mark people, okay, you're going to need a lot more space for a lot more people, which also plays to the fact that this is how we know some people are going to get deleted, okay, which that's part of the chaos. That's what they want, all right, people to delete each other because that plays into their depopulation agenda. But anyways, getting back on point, it says both of the detention centers that opened since President Donald Trump took office had been used as private prisons until California's incarcerated population fell to a level that to a level that allowed the Newsom administration to end those contracts. The latest figures show an average of about 5,337 people are being held in California immigration detention facilities, according to detentionreports.com. That number is up 72% from the average daily population of about 3,104 individuals being held in California in April 2025. This newest facility is part of a cluster of detention centers in Kern County, which includes the Golden State Annex in McFarland. It is unclear if GEO obtained conditional use permits or business licenses from the city of McFarland to start detaining immigrants at Central Valley Annex. Advocates for detained immigrants said they did not have an opportunity to raise their concerns at public hearings before ICE began using the new site. We don't want another ICE detention center in California or anywhere else for that matter, said anti-ICE detention advocate Edwin Carmona Cruz about the new Central Valley Annex. Well, that's what everybody's saying everywhere. We don't want your help, ICE. We don't want new facilities. We don't want this, that, and the third thing, but it's not up to you, right? This is reality, okay? We're not going to read into all of that. We just pretty much got the point there. Yeah, but this is from a website known as calmatters, says .org. So, you can pull that up if you like. Just a simple piece of information. It says ICE quietly opens another detention center in a former California prison, all right, which is why we read this up here in the Book of Lamentations, all right, in our steps we cannot go in our streets because this is what's happening, all right. Slow persecution of the Israelites, but soon it's going to lead to, mass deaths, all right, which the scriptures talk about people being beheaded, all right, which mainly they want the ones that believe in the Lord, but nonetheless, all right.
Libya's acting Foreign Minister Taher al-Buhar held talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow on Tuesday. He said the Libyan delegation plans to meet with Russian government officials to work on resuming bilateral agreements. We anticipate that during our upcoming meetings, we will have the opportunity to engage with representatives of various government institutions and agencies of the Russian Federation, work towards the resumption of specific contracts and agreements, and potentially conclude new arrangements. According to Ministry of Foreign Affairs Libya, the meeting reflects a clear intention by both countries to restore and strengthen their partnership on new foundations that serve mutual interest and support economic development. We will seek out opportunities to assist our companies in returning or re-entering the Libyan economy through the mechanism of the Intergovernmental Commission, which is set to resume its work. Today, the Libyan acting foreign minister and the Minister of Trade and I reached an agreement to this effect. As to comment on negotiations between the United States and Iran, Lavrov said that if both sides reached an agreement similar to the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, that would constitute a major success.
This next little piece here, this is about Russia, Libya. Okay, it's Russia-Libya relations. I'll just read it. It says, are currently defined by Moscow's strong backing of Eastern-based Commander Khalifa Haftar, utilizing Libya as a key logistical hub for military influence across the Sahel and Mediterranean. Russia seeks energy investments, naval access, and geopolitical leverage, right? Which Libya does have an embassy in Moscow. I think it's in Moscow. It's in Russia. I think it's in Moscow though. But Russia also has an embassy in Libya. Okay. It says, and largely through the deployment of its African Corps. Got a hit little spider. All right, it's African Corps. Don't go away. Tiny little red. I can't know where I see it. Anyways, so it says, the African Corps, formerly Wagner Group. This strategy has intensified following and in some ways replaced a reduced Russian presence in Syria. So the key aspects of current relations: support for Eastern forces. Russia maintains close ties with the Libyan National Army, the LNA, led by Khalifa Haftar, strengthening his forces with weapons and personnel to challenge the UN-backed government in Tripoli. Okay, military presence and infrastructure. Russia has established a durable presence with roughly 2,000 to 2,500 African Corps personnel deployed in eastern and southern Libya, particularly using the Al-Qadim Air Base. Right, strategic interest. Moscow seeks to secure naval access on NATO's southern flank, control migration routes to Europe, and gain influence over Libya's oil resources. All right, geopolitical competition. Libya is a major arena for competition between Russia and Western powers, as well as a complex arena of competition, collaboration between Russia and Turkey, and so on and so forth. We don't have to get into all these things. Well, that's the end anyways. All right, but yeah. Look, check this out. Historical background. Soviet era. Libya was a key Soviet ally in the Arab world with significant arms and economic agreements under Muammar Gaddafi. All right, post-2011, after the collapse of the Gaddafi regime, which Russia viewed as a failure of Western intervention, Moscow actively sought to regain influence in the region. All right, so this is all about, and now they don't have like a NATO type of agreement where if you attack one of us, the other one has to intervene. No, it's not working like that, at least not for now. Where if you attack Russia, Libya's going to join. If you attack Libya, Russia's going to join. They don't exactly have that set up now. This is just about their bilateral agreements, which we'll pull it up, or relations, whatever, you know. We'll just pull it up. Here it is. So bilateral relations. Well, I guess it probably would have came up if we put just to make sure it's the same thing, and put agreements. All right. So bilateral agreements are legally binding contracts or treaties between two parties, often sovereign states or individuals or entities in business, where both sides exchange promises to perform specific actions. These agreements, such as trade deals, labor contracts, or safety pacts, set clear, customized obligations to enhance cooperation and provide legal protection. Okay, so there's different types of bilateral agreements. All right, international agreements between two countries to formalize relations, manage immigration, or address specific issues. right? Bilateral trade agreements or BTAs, pacts that reduce tariffs, import quotas, and export restraints, easing trade between two nations. Okay, and we're talking about Russia and Libya, right? Bilateral aviation safety agreements. I don't care about that. Commercial contracts. Key aspects of bilateral agreements. Look, unlike unilateral contracts, both parties are bound by the agreement. All right. So I guess there can be like a what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe they'll just tell us down here because I can't think of the words I'm trying to say. Um, they are tailored to the specific needs and goals of the two individual involved parties. Yeah, legal action. Yep. Enforceability. Parties can seek legal remedies such as specific performance if the other side breaches the contract. That's what we were talking about up here. Right? They're bound by the agreement. Okay, increased efficiency, often used to facilitate targeted cooperation without the complexity of multilateral treaties, so on and so forth. Examples of bilateral agreements: a free trade agreement between the U.S. and Australia; maritime, the U.S.-Brazil maritime agreement for cargo access; business and employment contract with employee works and the employer pays; and environmental agreements related to technical aviation safety or environmental certification. All right, I didn't mean to swipe that, but it's okay. So yeah, same thing here. A bilateral agreement is a legally binding contract where both parties exchange promises to perform specific actions. Right, each party is obligated to fulfill their promise, with one party's promise acting as consideration for the others. All right, so it's a give and take scenario. Bilateral agreements are the most common type of legally binding agreement. Here's a breakdown of bilateral agreements, which we just went into. All right. So yeah. So now, we read this. Now they haven't as gone so far as to state, like I said, they don't have it was like a NATO type thing where if you attack one of us, then the others join. So this is not exactly going to that military level yet, but it's just interesting to see them, coming together more tightly, more closely, because we know what it says here in Ezekiel the 38th chapter, and we'll try to just get right down to the point. So maybe we'll start at verse 4, Ezekiel 38:4, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. This is speaking about Russia, all right, and their great army, the mass forces that they have. And then it says what? And also a great company, right? Because it's talking about other countries, right? It says to be a guard unto them. So let's keep reading. It says Persia, which are the modern day Iranians. Then we know the Russians are backing them up, as well as the Chinese, okay, helping them, assist them with the, like the satellites and other kind of, weapons and things that they need, right? Like the weak say, I'm strong. Ethiopia, all right, and what? Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, right? All of them with weapons, okay. See, letting the weak say, I am strong. And like I said, this is not what we just read was not talking about, exactly military, on that level just yet. But we know that Libya plays a major part in World War III as one of the nations that gets up under the guard of Russia. Which is why we bring all this out. So Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, and the house of Togarmah, the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself. Speaking about back to Russia again. Be prepared, all right, and prepare for thyself. Okay, book. It says, and all thy company that art assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So Russia, all right, is the main forces on the opposite side of Babylon the Great, and other countries are going to be joining with them, all right, in the fray, okay, in the midst of World War III, all right, at the height of it, okay. And just real quick, maybe somebody doesn't know, we'll just pull up Libya, all right. I'll put it past it tonight, all right, in Libya, all right, Powat in Hebrew, puts, all right, meaning a bow, a nation and people of northern Africa, probably Libyans, really. I mean, Libya says it all, but As a matter of fact, let's just go and highlight it and see if we can put it on the map for you, and then we'll move on. Libya, state of Libya. All right, so, oh, there you go. Right there. See, north, northeast, I guess, of Africa. It's not exactly. It is northern Africa, almost center, but a little eastern. But you see it there. All right, Libya. All right, and it also said what, Egypt. Okay. Actually, did it say Egypt? No, it says Ethiopia. Ethiopia, I think it says. Let me just go back. I don't forgot what it says now. but you see Ethiopia down there, that bottom corner. All right, bottom right. Okay. Let me see what it says. I forgot. Okay, what is this? All right. All that. Okay, yes, it did say Ethiopia. Yep, Ethiopia. So you saw Ethiopia. Okay. All right, Libya with them. All right. It says in the NLT, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya will join you too with all their weapons. All right. So I just wanted to bring that tiny thing up, right? Because you see, because this is what the Lord is doing. He's strengthening, certain places. He's bringing certain countries together, and it's all for what? For this ultimate time of World War III. Okay, which as a matter of fact, I was going to get that Joel, but I'm gonna get this next thing, and then we can just get the Joel, all right, scripture, and just tie it all in together, and that'll be the lesson. We'll close it out. This is a final thing here from Business Insider. Excuse me. So it says the command overseeing U.S. forces in the Middle East just got a third aircraft carrier. Excuse me. And a lot more firepower, right? The command overseeing U.S. forces in the Middle East just got a third aircraft carrier and a lot more firepower, right? So that makes three, because they have the Ford in the Red Sea and the Abe Lincoln that's supposed to be in the Arabian Sea, supposedly, all right? This is dated April 23rd. So it says U.S. Central Command announced the arrival of a third aircraft carrier in its area of responsibility. The command, which oversees U.S. forces in the Middle East, said the Bush is in the Indian Ocean. Oh, we just mentioned this. The other two carriers are the Ford in the Red Sea and the Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea. The U.S. military command overseeing American forces in the Middle East just over the U.S. military command overseeing American forces in the Middle East just picked up a third aircraft carrier, increasing its available firepower in a way it hasn't seen in decades. All right, so they say this is the Nimitz class aircraft carrier USS George H.W. Bush is currently in the Indian Ocean and within U.S. Central Command's area of responsibility. The other two carriers in the area are the first in a new class of carriers, USS Gerald R. Ford and USS Abraham Lincoln. The new carrier's arrival in the area comes amid faltering negotiations between Iran and the U.S. and continued challenges in the strategic Strait of Hormuz, a major oil artery. All right. Oh, what's this here? So it says Lincoln, Ford, and Bush air power, 200 plus aircraft. So it's the different types of aircraft that they have, which is about 7 different types of aircraft. 15,000 plus sailors and Marines. Sea power, 12 ships. 2 Nimitz class aircraft carrier, Ford class aircraft carrier, and the rest of that is too small for me to see. 2003 last time 3 carriers operated in CENTCOM. All right. Yeah, so 3 times strike group firepower. All right, CENTCOM fact sheet, U.S. Central Command. CENTCOM, which largely oversees American forces in the Middle East, announced the Bush's arrival in the Indian Ocean on Thursday. The carrier departed Virginia in late March and sailed around the coast of Africa, Meanwhile, the first-in-class Ford returned to the Red Sea after repairs in Croatia, continuing its record-breaking deployment after a serious fire. The Abraham Lincoln is in the Arabian Sea supporting the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. The blockade, which we know Trump just reached the call for that, okay? The blockade is being enforced by over 10,000 U.S. troops, over 100 fighters, rotary wing aircraft, surveillance planes, and over 17 warships, including guided missile destroyers. And this is just them laughing in your face, because if you want the Strait open, how can you block, something that's already blocked? All right, they want it to stay, you know, um, jammed up the way it is, because this is slowly affecting the American economy and the American people. Okay, and these American people can't see that the government is doing this to them. Okay, because they are slowly breaking this country down. Okay, they don't want this country to be, great again, to be made better. All right, they want this country to transition to the digital system. All right, but that's the other topic. Well, yeah, because blocking something that you definitely don't control is not going to help it get open back up again. Um, we're probably not going to read into any more of that. I just want to make the quick point here. All right, once again, this is from the Business Insider. So a third aircraft carrier um, reaching the Asian area, so the so-called Middle East, and I'm pretty sure you know where we're going with this one, which we just mentioned not too far back. Um, Let me get Joel 2 first. All right, so Joel chapter 2, because this is what's happening here. Eventually, there's going to have boots all over the ground, in the so-called Middle East, all right, in Asia, okay, because it's going to be that full-blown World War III. But for now, you see slow steps being made. So Joel 2, but I will remove far off from you the northern army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. And let's talk about them, being put to death. Look, the NLT says the stench of their rotting bodies will rise over the land. Surely the Lord Yahweh has done great things. Yet it says that in Revelation, gather yourselves to the supper of the great God. I believe it says it somewhere else too, but I know one of those places is in Revelation. Right, but up above that, okay, yeah, the Northern Army is talking about the American Army, all right, removing themselves to go over here, all right, to the east, supposedly, allegedly, because we don't really know what to believe sometimes with Babylon the Great. Um, and this third carrier is supposed to be, what did they say? It was in the Arabian Sea, okay. So this is what we see happening here, all right. Troops moving, all right, here and there, all right. Um, amassing together what's soon to come as World War III. And getting this verse here, as we close it off, we can actually drop this a little bit. So it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. All right, this is what we see happening. We talked about, which, like I said, it wasn't necessarily militarily, but Libya is mentioned in Ezekiel 38 chapter to come up under the guard of the Russians, okay? So it says, proclaim ye then, and we quoted from Isaiah 14, let the weak say I'm strong. I believe that's Isaiah 14. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. And where they're going to draw near to? Right, towards the so-called Middle East, right, area of Jordan, Saudi Arabia, state of Israel, right, Lebanon, all these different areas over there, all right, in Asia, okay? It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. All right, take all these, basically invest all your time and your money into creating weapons. All right, weapons of war. All right, whether it be vehicles, ships, submarines, choppers, jets, weapons, whatever it is. All right, prepare yourselves for war. Just like recently, what came across about America tapping, a couple automaker companies to actually make weapons. All right, because what a car is going to do, okay, in a jacked up society when most people don't have money to just keep constantly buying cars, all right? All businesses are slowing up, even if it doesn't seem like it. All businesses are slowing up. So producing more cars ain't going to benefit, right? With a country at war, we need weapons, and they wasted a lot of high tech weapons going at Iran, stuff that costs a lot of money, and Iran is just casually blowing them off. So yeah, it says let the weak say, oh, here it is right here. I thought it was in Isaiah 14. It's something else in Isaiah 14. Oh no, I know what it says. How hast thou become as weak as we? No, it was something similar I was thinking of. So yeah, it's here in this chapter. But Isaiah 14 says, has thou become as weak as we? But ultimately, what we've been talking about, different, strategical alliances, right? Because you're either going to be on this side or you're going to be on that side. And so the weaker nations are getting together, and like a perfect example with Iran. I'm not saying that it was like totally just a weaker nation, but with the assistance of Russia and China, it has definitely become a U.S. bug repellent. Okay, so it says, "Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Did the cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord Yahweh." All right. And so that's what the Lord is doing, gathering these nations. Eventually, all the nations are going to gather in the so-called Middle East, and even the angels are going to be here, all right, at some point, because that's in the scriptures too. The angels are even going to be here at some point. Okay. So these times are exciting times, but these times are also going to be scary times because the things that are going to be happening on the earth. But through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Hashem Al-Shai, it says what? Be ye not afraid, and neither doubt, for the Most High is your God. Okay. Let me get one more. It says, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, or Yahweh Shaphat, the valley of judgment, decision. For there will I sit to judge, right? Shaphat, right? He's going to judge them by what? War, death. All the heathen round about. First, he's going to have them war against each other, and then he's going to have them war against Yahweh. That's going to be the end of their armies. Okay? All right, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fast overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, and it says this in, I believe in Revelation as well, where it talks about the wine press, even Isaiah 63, all right? So multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. NLT says thousands upon thousands are waiting in the valley of decision. There, the day of the Lord Yahweh will soon arrive. And Zechariah talks about how the Lord is going to show up, and the Mount of Olives will cleave it in two, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we're waiting for these things to play out, but we know there has to be a crashing of a system. The system has to reset. The digital system has to come online before any kind of nukes will fly. All right, but as far as World War III, World War III can get deeper at any moment. Okay, doesn't mean the nukes are going to fly just because countries are fighting now. Russia, Ukraine, okay, America, Iran, State of Israel, everybody. You got China, Taiwan want to go to each other's necks. You got North Korea, South Korea, then want to go to each other's necks. But all these things culminate to the bigger battle of World War III, and many other places and many other countries got together. But that's pretty much it there. A few things there I want to bring out. So I'm going to leave it at that. Lord willing, you will edify to the next thing else I'm going to say.
So there is a very fragile ceasefire between the United States and Tehran, but both sides are keeping their options on the table. If the peace talks, if they're ongoing, fall apart. Now, reports suggest that a third U.S. aircraft carrier is headed towards West Asia. Iran, of course, is keeping its missile power intact despite the heavy bombardment. And our next report explores is Washington is preparing for yet another surprise attack on Iran while talking of negotiations. Take a look.
For 40 days, US and Israel unleashed firestorm on Iran. Despite being hit badly, the Iranian forces fought back hard. But after weeks of fragile ceasefire, it appears the US is preparing for a major showdown if peace talks with Iran fall apart. A third US aircraft carrier is reportedly heading towards West Asia. The USS George H.W. Bush thunders across the waves. a floating fortress loaded with F-35s, flanked by 3 missile destroyers and 5,000 elite troops. This is no small build-up. The US already has over 50,000 troops and at least 24 warships deployed in the region. Its largest military presence in the region since the 2003 Iraq invasion. Thousands of these troops are specially trained in seizing chunks of land in hostile territory. This military preparedness is a part of US's strategy to keep up pressure on Iran and ensure Washington has multiple military options on the table. Despite heavy bombardment, Iran is far from defeated. US claims 13,000 coordinated precision strikes have decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come.
They can no longer build missiles, build rockets, build launchers, or build UAVs. Their factories have been razed to the ground, set back in historic fashion.
But reports citing US intelligence assessments reveal a different reality. Iranian air power has been significantly degraded but not erased. Nearly half of Iran's stockpile of ballistic missiles and associated launch systems remain intact since ceasefire has come into force. Iranian military paraded its advanced ballistic Khorramshahr 4 and Ghadar ballistic missiles in a pro-government rally in central Tehran on Wednesday. Reports also claim that 2/3 of Iran's air force is still operational. The IRGC naval wing, which is designed for asymmetric warfare, continues to operate in the Strait of Hormuz. Moreover, it appears 60% of the naval arm is still in existence. This video released by Iranian forces show how its troops captured vessels near the Strait of Hormuz. Right now, the talks are stalled. Both the US and Iran sides are sticking to their red lines. The fragile ceasefire is holding on for now. Is this just strategic posturing or the calm before another storm? With more troops, more ships and more options than ever before, the US appears to be preparing for every possible scenario. Iran, which has been waiting for this day for 20 years, is ready to unleash deadly missiles. Bureau Report WION, World is One.